Get all the news and controversy of the NFL right here on the Blitz Zone with your hosts, Eric Rosen and Jamie Hickson, as they discuss the hot topics concerning your favorite players and team, the winners, the losers, the big plays, and the big hits from around the league. Right here, only on the Blitz Zone.
It's Friday, October 16th, 2015. Welcome to another edition of the Blitz Zone, your favorite NFL and college football program. Before we begin tonight's show, I just want to take this time to dedicate this show to a very important cause that's near and dear to my heart and to the hearts of millions of people, if not billions of people around the world. As you know, this is the month of October, and in the NFL, you see a lot of players wear pink gloves, cleats, and also pink flags. Everything is pink. The reason for that color is it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's a disease that has taken the lives of millions of people, millions of women. It's a disease that's taken away the lives of millions of women. But there are those women out there whose lives it didn't take. Those were the women who are fighting this disease and the women who survived this disease. And including in those survivors are my dear friend, Margaret Zamparty, and my loving mother, Eileen Rosen. Those two have fought through all the adversities, through every situation that's come their way during these times when they were diagnosed with breast cancer. And they've come out with clean bills of health. And it's just, they truly are remarkable people who just, they keep going on with their lives every single day as though there's nothing going on. And they fight this terrible disease head on with strength, courage, conviction, and just overall class. So I want to dedicate tonight's show to every single woman out there, to every single woman, like I said, that is fighting this disease, those that are surviving from this disease, and to those lives that were taken. And to the people out there who are doing all the research and then putting all the hours into one day ending breast cancer. So my thoughts, my prayers, my wishes, everything is with you, and the show is for you. So as they say in life, the show must go on.
Yes, sir.
And so shall we. Welcome to another edition of the Blitz Zone on this Friday, October 19th. We're coming to you live from the studios of CTV in Staten Island, New York. I'm your host, Eric Rosen. And right next to me is my co-host, the man who will take us on this journey to Super Bowl 50, Mr. Jamie, the sportsman Hickson.
Eric, as always, wonderful working with you. A very well-put speech. Hopefully, we will inch closer to finding a cure for all forms of cancer, because I unfortunately had friends and close members of my family who have been claimed by that dreaded disease, and it seems like the more people that get claimed by cancer, the more I'm starting to lose hope. But there's still that little sliver that tells me somewhere down the line, we're going to beat this thing. If they could beat smallpox, then somewhere down the line, we're going to beat cancer.
Well said, my man. Now, there's been a lot of things going on in the world of the NFL and in football in general. So let's jump into the news of this past week, starting in a usual area we don't get into in our news segment, and that's the college football world. Mm-hmm. But because of the enormity of what took place last week, we must discuss this. There are two Steves that are no longer coaching in the world of college football. Let's start with Steve Spurrier, now former head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks of the SEC Conference. This was a guy who for many years took them to 3 straight 11-2 seasons from 2011 to 2013. In fact, his defenses have been spectacular, including the 2013 Player of the Year, Jadeveon Clowney. Then Fortunately, this past Tuesday, after his winningest season with them at 86-49, he decided to resign.
Yeah, this really should not come as a shock to anybody because, for one, Steve's really getting up there in age. He's 70 years old now. And just because he's leaving the program doesn't mean he's leaving football in general. He made it clear he's not retiring. He's only resigning from the university. At the same time, Steve really made South Carolina football relevant in the national landscape again. I mean, he won a couple of Eastern Division championships in the SEC, took them to several bowl games, won a lot of big games for the university. But I remember his days with the University of Florida, not just as their head coach, but when he was the quarterback in the 60s. He was a very successful quarterback for the Gators, but unfortunately, like many Gator quarterbacks that have been past and even present, that success did not translate into the NFL. He was labeled one of the worst quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL. But where he was unable to find success on the field, he found a lot more success on the sideline. He coached in the USFL with Tampa, then went to Duke University, where he really started to show signs that he was going to be a really brilliant guy. And then came his time with Florida, where he won countless Southeastern Conference titles and a national championship in 1996. But then came that ill-fated 2-year run in the NFL with the Redskins, a job that he probably won't say as much, but he'll admit that
wasn't his best decision to go to the Redskins.
It was not his best decision to go to the Redskins. But he did return to the college game and really made South Carolina a really driving force, not just in the SEC, but in the college football landscape.
He took them to the SEC title game back in 2010 when they lost about 56-14 to Auburn. That was the year, of course, when Cameron Newton was the quarterback
of the
Auburn Tigers. And of course, he went to the NFL the next year. But but it's really sad to see him go. But I know we're going to see Steve Spurrier coaching again.
Somewhere down the line, he's going to get himself a job someplace, whether it's at another college or maybe he'll start tutoring some kids in the high school level. You never know. Football's really in his blood, so don't be surprised if you see him wind up somewhere else down the road.
And now to another Steve. But this is not really, easy to say this. Steve Sarkisian, now the former head coach of the USC Trojans, who Monday found out from athletic director Pat Hayden that he was no longer needed, that he was fired from his job, and he's going to be replaced by the offensive coordinator Clay Helton for the rest of the season. And the reason being is Steve Sarkisian has been battling alcohol addiction for the last few years, and it came to a head this past August at a Booster Clubs meeting where the athletic director, Pat Hayden, kind of saw that he was tipsy and not in his right frame of mind and told him to seek help. So he was going to seek help, but yet he was still going to be allowed to coach at USC. Then it got even worse during the season to the point where we found out just last week that he was leaving. He got a leave of absence. That's right, a leave of absence for health reasons. Then we find out that he was fired because of the fact that he had these issues, and he's now entering into rehab.
Yeah. First and foremost, we got to look out for this guy as an individual and not as a head coach. Coaching should be the furthest thing from his mind right now, because when you have a guy who's showing up to work drunk as a skunk and barely able to function on the job, that should be a sign right there that he really does need to get some help. Hopefully this will tide over and he can get back to being the Steve Sarkisian that all football people know him to be, and that's a brilliant offensive mind. But first things first, he really needs to kick the bottle away from him.
Oh, I think he will. And this is just the second time in the last few years we've seen USC now go from their regular head coach to an interim head coach. Remember back in 2013 when Lane Kiffin was let go in October, then was replaced by Ed Ogeron, and then afterwards, that's when in 2014, they decided to hire Sarkisian. Now, just barely, not even 2 years into his tenure, Sarkisian gets fired, and now they're going to go with Clay Helton. So the next year, that USC job is probably going to be the most sought after and probably one of the toughest jobs to have in college football besides Texas, Notre Dame, and Michigan.
That's a prime job for a lot of guys to look after. I mean, think about it. It's in Los Angeles, the second biggest market in the country, with a gargantuan set of media following the Trojan program, not just the football program, but the entire athletic department. In this case, they really need somebody that's going to be able to recruit well all over the state of California, in addition to other parts of the country. Somebody who knows the L.A. area really well and can establish some ties there.
All right, well, let's get into some quick rapid-fire news. Jamal Charles out for the year with a torn ACL in his right leg. It took place in the third quarter on a non-contact play while making a cut to the middle when the when the Chiefs are up 17-3 against the Chicago Bears. And then, of course, after the injury that took place, the Bears went and scored 15 unanswered points, including that game-ending touchdown from Jay Cutler to Matt Forte with about 18 seconds left. The Bears won 18-17. So not only did the Chiefs lose their fourth straight, now they lost their best offensive player for the rest of the year, a guy who's accounted for half of their 10 touchdowns, being 5. He's more than 30% of their offense. He's everybody's best player when it comes to fantasy numbers. Now, all he has to do is take this time to recover, and hopefully we'll see him next year.
Whatever hopes the Chiefs had to try and do anything this season might have been thrown out the window. Now it's all up to Alex Smith, although they really don't want to have to put the burden on him. It's really up to Alex Smith to step up his game this time.
It's not just him, though. Niall Davis now has to be the number one back on the team. And then you got guys like Terrence West, who they acquired from Cleveland. And then you also have to account for DeAnthony Thomas. Let's not forget, a few years ago, he was an Oregon Duck, and he was their number one running back. He was also a kick returner, and at times they put him at wide receiver. But when he came to the NFL last year, he was the wide receiver. Now they're going to use him a lot. So expect to see plenty of him this week against Minnesota. As for the rest of the injuries, Lorenzo Taliaferro, the running back for the Baltimore Ravens, done for the year with a nagging foot injury. Justin Tuck, of course, that name familiar to Giant fans.
Oh, yes.
Well, now he's with the Oakland Raiders. Well, not for the rest of the year. He tore his pectoral. He's done for the season. As for Prince Amukamara, speaking of the Giants, yet again another injury, a partially torn pectoral. He's going to be out for the next 2 to 4 weeks.
I just don't know what to say about the kid. I mean, he's been such a disappointment.
Well, let's not forget the game against Washington earlier this year. He did make a big interception in that game that propelled him to their
one game,
big win
though.
of the year.
Overall, he has not really shined the way the Giants had hoped for when they drafted him out of Nebraska all those years ago.
He just cannot maintain his health. That's the problem with him. His health has been issues since day one when he came out of Nebraska. But now it's got to be J-Ron Hosley or Trevin Wade. They're going to have to take over for him. And that's it with those injuries. As for the next segment, quarterback replacement. So I'm going to round off some quarterbacks that are going to be replaced possibly in the next few weeks. Tyrod Taylor this week may not even play because of a MCL injury sustained in the 14-13 victory for Buffalo over Tennessee. Now we're going to see possibly E.J. Manuel get the nod. Good or bad?
Bad. Totally bad. E.J. Manuel has been a total disappointment ever since he got drafted out of Florida State.
He's 6-8 as a starter. He hasn't had a start in over a year. Yes, he's been a bit of a disappointment, but also let's not forget a few years ago in that Thursday night game against Cleveland when he sustained that terrible MCL injury himself. So he knows what Tyrod's going through right now. And actually, it was an LCL injury. My bad. It was an LCL injury. But still, it's just the fact that Manuel is going to get thrust into the start, even though Tyrod is saying, I want to play. Even Rex is trying the whole psychology of telling the Bengals he's going to play this week.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to happen. So, best of luck to you, EJ. As for Matt Castle, guess he's going to get the nod for the Cowboys when they return Week 7 from the bye against the Giants.
Even though he hasn't distinguished himself ever since he left the Patriots, he is a slight upgrade over Brandon Weeden, who I still say is complete garbage. At least Matt Castle has shown that he can be a capable replacement because he wound up winning 10 games for the Patriots 7 years ago. So let's see what he can do with a team like the Cowboys, a team that still has some playoff hopes.
And still missing some players on offense. Well, they're going to be missing Lance Dunbar for the rest of the year, torn ACL. Des Bryant is maybe a week or two away from coming back from the foot injury. And then when Tony Romo finally comes back, the team will be complete, I believe. So I wish the best of luck to Matt Castle. He's able to get this offense. He wasn't a multiple check system like the system he was with Norv Turner in Minnesota. As for, Weeden, he has yet to win a start in 4 games with the Cowboys. He's used to a spread offense style, and he's struggling with his progression and his full reads. This is exactly why they had to make the move right now. Yeah. In fact, they were 6-0 in the first 6 drives last week against New England. Pretty terrible. Okay, so that's it for the news. Let's quickly recap Week 5, starting with the Buffalo Bills. They visit the Tennessee Titans, Music City Miracle from 99. Well, Tyrod Taylor, of course, pulled a miracle out. They were down 13-0, and he starts the game off with a huge 22-yard rushing touchdown late in the third quarter. Then, on 3rd and 23 from the Bills' 7, comes up with a 24-yard run, caps the 80-yard drive with the 2-yard game-winning pass to Chris Hogan. They win 14-13 over the Titans losing their second straight game at home by double digits. And, of course, Tyrod Taylor, as I mentioned, with the MCL injury, who knows if he'll play this week. The Saints visiting the Eagles. Fly, Eagle, fly, did they do? The Sam Bradford, despite the fact they had 2 picks in the red zone, he still came up with a beautiful performance, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fletcher Cox, 2 fumble sacks on Drew Brees. In fact, Drew Brees had 3 turnovers. Eagles won 39-17. The Rams visiting the Packers at Lambeau Field and the land of milk and dairy. Well, everything was cheesy all right for the Packers team, winning 24-10, including seeing Aaron Rodgers 2 touchdowns to Ty Montgomery and James Jones. However, something ended.
Which is?
His streak of interceptions at home. After 587 pass attempts, an NFL record, 49 touchdowns, Aaron Rodgers had 2 interceptions in the game.
This is the difference between Aaron Rodgers and other quarterbacks. At least Aaron Rodgers can overcome his mistakes.
Yep. And they did win 24-10. Speaking of mistakes, Nick Foles, 4 interceptions. Going to the bye week, he better work on those turnovers for St. Louis. Chicago, of course, as I mentioned, visiting Kansas City, 17-3, the injury to Jamal Charles. So afterwards, Jay Cutler comes up with a 22-yard strike to Marcus Wilson with about 3:05 left. Just beautifully inside over 2 defenders. Then, in stride, then the shotgun formation. Cutler gets the ball, drops the pass, picks it up, throws it in stride to Matt Forte with about 18 seconds left. Cutler engineered yet the second game-winning drive. Bears win 18-17 over the Chiefs. Chiefs losing their 4th straight.
I'm a little speechless right now because I'm still coming to grips with the fact that Jay Cutler engineered a game-winning drive.
Well, he did. Last week he did against Oakland, leading them to the game-winning Robbie Gould field goal, 22-20. So this time, at least they're winning. They're not, losing right now because for Jay Cutler, another loss would have mean maybe possibly another week of him not quarterbacking. That would have been pretty bad.
Let's see them sustain this this momentum that they have.
Okay, going further, we got the Cincinnati Bengals. They're at home against the visiting Seahawks. They're down 24-7 in the 4th quarter. Then comes Andy Dalton's beautiful comeback performance, throwing a touchdown to Tyler Eifert in the middle of the end zone, then rushing for a 5-yarder on a scramble. Very nice for him. And then the game-tying field goal by Mike Nugent from 31 yards out, just with seconds to go on the clock. And then when they finally get the ball back in overtime after Seattle was stopped by the Cincinnati defense, Mike Nugent, yet again, the former Jet, hits a 42-yarder Off the left, bouncing off the left upright. They win 27-24 in overtime. Undefeated 5-0. Best start since '88 when they were last in the Super Bowl. The Seahawks 0-3 on the road.
Give Dalton a lot of credit for overcoming his mistakes. Not great, but still played well enough to win.
Okay, the Jacksonville Jaguars visiting the Buccaneers in the second Battle of Florida that we've seen this year. Earlier, of course, the Jaguars beat the Dolphins 23-20. Now, in this Battle of Florida, the Jaguars did not succeed. Why? Doug Martin was the muscle hamster was the reason why. 123 rushing yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns from short yardage. And, of course, Jameis Winston's 209 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions.
More importantly.
But you got to give it up to Blake Bortles. The guy had one of his best offensive efforts, 303 yards, 4 touchdowns, including a really great touchdown he threw to Allen Hurns early in the game. But the interception that set up, but he did throw a pick that set up a Bucs touchdown, 38-31 being the result for the Buccaneers. Okay, the Redskins and the Falcons. Let's put it this way. This was one of the biggest red zone opportunity games I've seen besides the Jaguars-Buccaneers game.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the Falcons, of course, getting the game-tying touchdown on a Devonta Freeman rushing touchdown from 6 yards out. Before that, he had what looked like a touchdown catch, but then the ball dropped sort of to the ground, and he had to pick it up. And because of the fact that he didn't have full control of the ball, they ruled it incomplete. But he was able to get what was the go-ahead 19-6 score. Then Hopkins, the new field goal kicker for the Redskins, got the game-tying field goal from 52 yards out, 19-all. Cousins gets the ball for the Redskins.
And what does Kirk Cousins do? Not only does he throw behind his intended receiver, he winds up throwing a pick 6.
Yep, Ryan Grant slips, in fact, on the pass route. Robert Alford, second interception for 59 yards down the right sideline. 25-19, undefeated for the Falcons. Let's see if they were last night. We'll get into that in a bit. The Browns visiting the Ravens. And can you believe this? For the first time in a while, Joe Flacco loses to the Browns 33-30 in overtime. Travis Kuhn's 32-yard field goal in overtime, and Josh McCown, a record 457 passing yards for the Browns.
Absolutely amazing. But still, big win there.
Very big win for them. They needed it badly, especially from McCown. Okay, the Cardinals visiting the Lions in the Motor City, and believe me, the Lions' motors were dead in this game. 42-17, they lose. Palmer throwing 3 touchdowns, including 18 yards to Josh Brown, a 2-yarder to Larry Fitzgerald, Darren Fells from 14 yards, and former Lion Corey Redding even picked off Matthew Stafford. One of 3 interceptions for Stafford. In fact, he was benched in the second half for Dan Orlovsky. When you got to get benched for Dan Orlovsky, you know something's wrong.
There you go.
42-7. Okay. The Patriots, of course, visit the Cowboys in Jerry World for the first time ever. And on a bootleg 1-yard touchdown for the first time in 3 years for Tom Brady. And then the fact that he got sacked 5 times in the first half, but yet in the second half, he threw 2 big touchdown plays. They ended up beating the Cowboys 30-6, and the Cowboys were just terrible on 3-and-outs.
It just wasn't a fair fight here. Now, you mentioned the 3-and-outs. This just goes to show you how much the Cowboys miss both Romo and Des Bryant in this game. Whether the result would have been the same or different, no one really knows, but this just goes to show you how much of a disparity there is at quarterback between Tom Brady and Brandon Weeden.
In fact, in that game, Gronkowski had 51 of his 67 yards in that opening drive in the second half. Unbelievable. Okay, the Broncos visiting the Raiders. The black and silver, of course, looking to pick up a victory. They're up 10-9 in the game. And then what happens? Derek Carr throws a game-ending Chris Harris Jr. 74-yard pick 6. The Broncos beat the Raiders 16-10. This is yet another week in which the Broncos offense has done more of the work, especially in the fourth quarter, than the Broncos offense. And this is why the Broncos are undefeated, honestly. 7 interceptions versus 6 touchdowns on the year for Peyton Manning.
That's called covering your tracks right there. A lot of people focus on Peyton Manning on his offense, but the defense is just so underrated to the point that they're just tremendous. I mean, they've got guys on the line. They have athleticism. Their secondary is good. This is exactly why the Broncos are the team that they are right now.
How about this? The Steelers, Monday night, with the best travel fans in all of football, going to face the Chargers at Qualcomm in San Diego. And Le'Veon Bell, they're down, 20-17. And Le'Veon Bell gets the game-winning snap on a Wildcat formation from 1 yard out and gets the game-winning touchdown going to the left side. They win 24-20. On that drive alone, Michael Vick had a huge scrambling run that's from 24 yards out. Then the 16-yard pass to Heath Miller. Then the fact that the Chargers get called for pass interference, giving the Steelers an extra set of downs, and then the Wildcat play from Le'Veon Bell.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Good victory. They needed it.
Yeah.
And finally, the New York Giants, talk about a game-winning drive from them from 82 yards. 82-yard game-winning drive. Peyton Manning engineers his 27th career game-winning drive. They won 30-27 on the Larry Donnell 12-yard touchdown
This
catch.
was such a well-played game by both teams, but for Eli to do this again, this is a habit for him, leading his team to a come-from-behind victory. To be quite honest with you, the Giants were a little fortunate there because they were going up against a Niner team that really played one of their best games of the season.
I know. And now, with Week 5 over, let's go into Week 6. The bye teams this week. The Dallas Cowboys. Good luck to you, Matt Castle. The Raiders. Hopefully, Derek Carr. Don't throw any more interceptions. The same goes for you, Nick Foles, with the St. Louis Rams. Your defense, stay beautiful. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Get that defense better. And as for Jameis Winston, just keep working on those interceptions. And Doug Martin, stay classy. You're a good runner. Okay, now let's go to last night's game, the Thursday night game. NFC South, Falcons visiting the Saints in the Dome.
Look no further than those two crucial turnovers that the Falcons committed inside their own red zone in the first half that really put them in the behind the 8 ball. That's why the Saints won that game.
I think it was also the Mike Motti block punt as well in the first half that set everything up because it was 7-0 at the time, Saints. And then when Mike Motti blocked the punt from the Atlanta special teams and recovered it for the touchdown, they went up 14-0 from that. So that was the play that kept the Saints in the lead from that point on until the end of the game. Yet they won 31-21. Ben Watson had a beautiful fourth down catch from 2 yards out on that crazy 10-yard drive from 63 yards, including the offsides they were able to draw on 4th and goal from the 4. Yeah, so Saints, great victory. They needed it. Okay, now let's go to the first game of the week. We got the Washington Redskins visiting the New York Jets. And sorry, folks, that I'm messing up my flags.
This is the opportunity for the Jets to really capitalize again on the soft part of the schedule. I know the Redskins are trying to tread water right now, but let's face facts. They're just not any good. Offensively, they're horrible. The defense has been pretty much helping them hang by a thread right now. For the Jets to win this game, pound the ball with Chris Ivory and make sure that their quarterback manages the game efficiently. And that's why the Jets are 3-1 right now, because in spite of the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick is complete fool's gold in my eyes, at least he's been able to manage the game well. And he's got a good set of receivers and that running game to work with.
Especially the fact they made that big play in the beginning of the Week 4 match against the Dolphins in London, which they won 27-14. But also it's the defense, too. They averaged the NFL best 3.3 takeaways a game. This is why they got Revis and Cromartie and Buster Screen and Marcus Gilchrist.
Yep. Because they're opportunistic.
Oh, yeah. They already have 13 takeaways. That's how much they had last year. All of last year. This is what they have right now. I shudder to think what they're going to have this year in terms of takeaways against a team that gives up the 8th most
At this rate, the Jets would be in line to get 52 takeaways this season, which would be among probably the top 10 in the NFL.
I'm going
in
with
this
the Jets.
game. Yeah, I like the Jets in this game as well. To be honest with you, there's a real disparity at quarterback. I actually think that Ryan Fitzpatrick is better than Kirk Cousins, which is really saying a lot.
Oh, without a doubt, he's much better. But the running game, you know what? Matt Jones, If on the Jets defense, keep an eye out for him. All right, how about the Giants visiting the Philadelphia Eagles? Will the Eagles fly over the Giants? Because let's remember, last year, same situation. Giants lost the first 2 games. Then they went on to win the next 3. They played the Eagles week 6, Sunday night, and that's when the Eagles beat them 27-0, including Victor Cruz having that game-ending and season-ending injury. Then